let's go out on a strong note. Let's tie all these things together, and let's make sure that not only you guys feel like encouraged or whatever right now, but let's make sure that it lasts. Let's make sure you actually learn how to upkeep this kind of thinking for years to come, okay? Because like I tell everybody that comes to workshops, it's fantastic that you come, it's fantastic that you're listening and you're paying attention, but if you don't go home and continue what you're learning, you might as well not have come at all. Like, you're just going to forget. And I assume if you're sitting there watching on your computer, you're probably pretty serious about photography and you want to improve, you want to make a build a business out of this. So let me explain to you something that a lot of people have asked, is how do you practice these things and how do you do your own upkeep? Now, you all have little notebooks and pieces of, something to write with, right? I'm gonna go and show you what I do, and then I'm gonna ask you, and maybe you guys online watching, go ahead and try to do the same thing that I'm gonna ask them to do, and I'll explain that in a minute, not right now, but I'll have you guys go through the same process that I go through every single wedding. Sounds good? So this kind of stuff means a lot to me. They're just silly slides, but they are powerful slides for me, and they're sort of emotional, just because these little slides, even though they're super silly, have been responsible for my progress. And if it wasn't for my progress, I wouldn't have been able to stay as a photographer. I would have had to go do something else, right? So these slides, I take them very seriously and very personal. And they're actually probably the silliest of all slides. Here's a typical practice session I actually did. This is in the building, near the building where I live, and I saw this little hallway. And because every time I walk into a bride's room, it's always this hotel, right? And the hotel has these hallways with the doors on the left and on the right. So part of my mentality is I want to be able to study the segments that are in every section of the wedding that I work on. Let me make sense out of that. If I show up at a hotel room where the bride is getting ready, what are the elements that are pretty constant in every hotel room? Bed, walls, paintings with a glass, okay, a glass cover, right? Mm-hmm. Usually mirrors, usually lamps.
And blinds.
Blinds. Sometimes colorful walls, sometimes, depending on the hotel. Like, I travel a lot to different countries. I've seen blue and orange and stuff like that. And when you walk to the hotel room, usually you see the hallways and stuff, right? So I wrote a list of these kinds of items, like hallway. What happens with the wedding dress usually? Where does the wedding dress usually stand when you walk into a room? It's kind of on the hanger, right? Sitting by the window, right? Mm-hmm. So I wrote a little list on my notebook, and I put bride getting ready or groom getting ready. And I wrote a list of all the items that I pretty much see in every hotel room constantly. And then I developed a little practice session throughout for each one of them, okay? These practice sessions do not take a long time. They took me about 5 minutes. I would say 10 minutes on average. Let's take a look at one. Here's my 15-minute hallway session. How does that look to you?
Like a hallway.
Like a hallway. How exciting can you do this? Can we transform this like we transformed the corner of this room? You sure can. Yeah. So let's take a look at one thing that I did. I didn't have models, so I busted out my broom and my dustpan. My broom and my dustpan became my models for the day. They do not complain. They are not high maintenance. You don't have to feed them, and they are free. Mm-hmm. Perfect combo, right?
And they're skinny. I'm just kidding.
And they're what? They're skinny. I told myself I have to come up with a creative way to photograph this broom, and I have to come up with some techniques so when I see another hallway, I have 3 to 5 little tools in my head that I can implement in this little hallway. Does that make sense? So here's what I did. I put the broom and the dustpan, and do you see how there's a little bit of a reflection on the paint on the floor?
Yeah.
Well, that's cool, so I made a note. Okay, another thing is, there's a light source coming from the other side of the hallway coming in, so I made another note. That's a contrasting lighting situation, which is a very common one, right? And then I thought, how can I use that light in the back to create something special in the hallway? Now this may sound really crazy and anal, but again, I'm gonna repeat myself here. That's what it takes to do well. For every time you do this, there is 30 million other photographers not doing it at all, just complaining that they're not making money. Okay? Now, I put the broom and the dustpan on the other side, and I thought, this does not look good. This is not showing my broom and my dustpan as well. So make mental notes. Okay? Then I switch it. And this is, remember that photo on the first day? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Remember when I showed the photo of the bride walking down that staircase, and I zoomed out and all of that craziness? That came from this exercise. So I saw the hallway, I put the broom and the dustpan, and I couldn't come up with anything too cool. So I put the camera on slow shutter, and I tried using my camera's techniques. Like you have shutter speed, aperture, ISO. These are the things you have, and lenses, right? So I put it on slow shutter speed, and I zoomed out when I took the photo, and it created this like explosive look. And I said, mental note, hallway looks pretty cool when it's exploding. Explosive look on the hallway looks pretty cool. Especially when there's a light source, like a bright light source. It looks like it's like that's like the ground zero of like some sort of explosion or something. It's like the bright side, and then it kind of goes out into darkness. Does that make sense? Really cool. I made a mental note that this was my favorite of all the other 3 photos I took. The next one, I put my teddy bear, and I thought I'll try to put a flash behind it. You know how much I've been using my flashes here? Mm-hmm. You also noticed how well I've been able to use my flashes and how creative I've been able to use them. Well, this is where it comes from. It comes from me shooting the teddy bear, and I'm trying to blow out the hallway. So I was trying to even out the light from the darkness to the brightness, okay? Turns out I didn't like it, but at least you make a mental note. Then I have the maintenance man for the building came around, and I borrowed him for a second, and I said, dude, please come over here for a split second. Can I borrow you? He goes, what's going on? Now he runs from me. He runs away from me whenever he sees me. I was like, can you stand there, please? So I made him stand on the left, and I just tried to experiment again. What happens if you put someone on the edge of the hallway instead of in the middle of the hallway?
Just too far away.
And I made mental notes. I put him behind, and I thought that looked pretty cool because now I added 2 flashes. One flash is pointing towards the maintenance man, another flash is pointing towards the camera. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And I thought it's starting to look kind of interesting, right? See how we're transforming the hallway? Then I put him in front, and I was just like, kind of like the other one better. Then I put a red gel, and I tried to make the hallway red. And I wanted to know what that would look like. But do you see how the light on the flash spills a little bit of white because the gel wasn't covering the whole flash? Well, that gave me the idea to maybe have 1 flash with no gel and 1 flash with a gel. Does that make sense? So now I put the one that doesn't have a gel is towards the maintenance man, and the one that has the gel is pointing towards the camera, but the one that's pointing towards him is too weak. So then I increase the power, and I increase the power. You see that? Mm-hmm. And now this is doing 2 things. It's teaching you how you can change the look of the hallway, but most importantly, it's making you familiar with the buttons in your flash to change the power. Right? Yeah. A lot of times I ask someone, could you change the flash to manual 3/4 and zoom the head at 75 millimeters? They're like, what? And I'm like, how long have you been shooting? 22 years. And you don't, do you know where the on switch is? No. Just kidding. You know what I mean though, right?
Yeah.
By you doing these things makes you like think fast. When I was doing the photo shoot of the corner, didn't I change my flash to the wall, and I said, I made a mistake, I have to turn it towards the wall because I need to backlight the legs and all these different things. These are just tools. So I kept going.
He's a nice maintenance guy.
He's very cool. And by the way, he got very comfortable later. Look at this. huh? Like he started really getting comfortable. I mean, after like, you know, a few minutes, he was just like, okay, I can do this. I was like, dude, you're on fire right now. But look how I'm changing I'm making that thing go from a white hallway to a red hallway, right? That was the setup. That's what it looked like. That's my teddy bear, there's my broom or whatever. But this is the kind of look you can get. I just made a joke, okay, with the crowns. But you can see that hallway looks very different from the previous shot.
I know.
And you're training your brain to do two things. Transform what you're seeing, like what I did here, and also become very familiar with your tools, okay? That's what you started with. That's kind of what you end with. Now, the wedding I shot in Hawaii, let me back out of this. Let me see if I can, where is that photo? I'll go to it later, okay? Then I went to the wedding and I saw the staircase. Now you can see the resemblance between the staircase and that hallway. My brain was like, bingo, I know exactly what I want to do here. I'm going to turn this photo black and white, like I did with a lot of these photos today. I'm going to put the shutter on slow shutter. I'm going to zoom out as the bride walks down the aisle. Down the staircase, and I'm gonna make this explosive feel, and it's gonna look sick, and I'm gonna do it in 5 seconds, right? And it's got symmetry, patterns, geometry, balance, light contrast, light coming into darkness, right? And there's the photo from the result of that practice session. So yeah, it is a broom and a dustpan, but it sure paid off, yeah. Right? Because this photo, when people saw this, they're like, that's really cool. And the best part, when I show my clients my photos, I don't just show them the final, I show them what I did with the staircase. Because you want to create a contrast in their mind. When a client sees that you transform that into that, they are like, this guy can do anything. No matter where I go, no matter where we go, no matter if it's raining, sunny, beautiful place, awful place, this guy is like MacGyver, he's gonna make it happen. Okay, this is creating contrasts in the brain, and I don't know if I have time to talk much about the brain and all how that works for that anymore, but contrasts are one of the things your brain needs to make a decision, not to think about making a decision. If you give people, you want the brain to say, I'm gonna make the decision, you don't want your brain to be thinking about making it. When you see something like this, your brain says, I need to hire this person. But if you only show them the beautiful photos, even though you may be good, you're not giving them the contrast the brain needs. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, let's move on to my other one with the bananas and the teddy bear. I'm sure people online are like, oh my God, here he comes with the bananas.
We actually have a regular in the lounge named Bananas, so they were saying.
Oh, really? There it is.
There you are, Bananas.
There it is.
There you are.
So I put the bananas on a light stand because I wanted to create contrast of lighting between a silhouette and a perfectly lit banana. Does that make sense? And then I tried it the other way, and I just kept making experiments. This took me about maybe 20 minutes or 30 or something like that. And I started playing around with the different lighting situations. I put a flash on the banana. Here's the results from that. This is the banana out of focus instead of the banana in focus. Which one do you like more?
The banana focus.
Banana in focus?
Yeah.
See, now you know that because you saw the photo. So if you're gonna have a situation where you have the bride by the window and the groom away from the window, you're gonna have the same situation. Who would you focus on? The bride.
Right.
Because if you focus on the groom, the banana goes out of focus and basically the bride goes completely out and you don't know what he's looking at. Is that fair? Mm-hmm. Now I turned the teddy bear towards that side and I said, this looks like he's not interested in the banana. He doesn't like the banana. It's a perfectly good banana. He doesn't want it. So why should I photograph the bride and the groom in those positions? It's like they're not interested in each other, right? Mm-hmm. That was my favorite photo. The banana in focus by the window, the groom in silhouette, looking kind of in her direction. Pretty cool. I go to a wedding in Mexico, we're shooting, I see this doorway, I'm like, doorway has light, I can put the light by the bride, it's inside a room, the room is dark, silhouette, so I put the groom in the back, and then we took this photo.
What a pretty banana.
What a pretty banana. But when I walked into this room, it was like this. Ooh, door. Oh, groom, stand over here. Bride, stand over there. Bride, look over here. Groom, look at that way. Change the settings to focus for the bride and expose for the bride. Take the picture. Let's move on to the next photograph. And they were just like, I showed them the photo. They were like, what is wrong with you? Right? And I was like, you don't know what I do Monday through Friday. You're just seeing the results of my hard work. And the best part, you're seeing me perform, not hope. When I took this photo, I wasn't like, oh my gosh, look at this. Because I already knew what was gonna look like. Remember the first day I said that football player that made the touchdown and he started celebrating for half an hour and then he got kicked out of the game? And the coach was like, you're out of here. And the guy's like, why? I just made a touchdown. And I said, because you made us look like fools. You made us look like that's the first time we've ever had a touchdown. Your photos should be touchdowns all the time. So when you have a shot like this, you should expect it. Not be like jumping up and down that you have, finally, you took a good photo. Look, there's a miracle, people. I took a good photo. It looks cool. Okay.
I'm so lucky today.
What's that?
I'm so lucky today.
Yeah, today is the day. Go buy a lottery ticket fast. There's the practice session. That's what you're going to get. There is the implementation of the practice session. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Wedding dress, typical wedding dress photo. You have the wedding dress. The wedding dress is just sitting there by the hanging somewhere. But remember that banana and the teddy bear shot? Let's use it again. But this time with only one person. This is why it's like multi-level, okay? Okay, take a look at this movie and enjoy the results and compare it to the banana and the teddy bear photo. The dress is the banana, the bride is the teddy bear. Do you see it? See how the dress is laid by the window?
More to the left, so keep looking more. Okay, there you go, that's it. Chin down more.
Same thing. Cool, right? The bride is the groom, the bride is the teddy bear. The dress
Banana.
just became in the place of the banana. Not only that, remember I said to frame with people? So I'm using her to frame as well. Multi-level photography, okay? Now you understand how these things keep getting implemented in all these stuff. This was the hallway. I was just like, I didn't have that light in the back, so I just made it with my flashes.
Do you
Yes.
have 2 flashes there?
I only had one, and I had it at pretty full power
On the back.
in the back. Because remember that hallway photo, it was in the back? That light source, the sun, was coming from the back? Look at this one. That was in the mirror, that was in the hallway, that mirror. And I didn't just have the bride look at the mirror and she's like looking at herself like, ooh, there I am. I told her, that's a cool mirror, I'm not gonna waste it, but I gotta make it look like it's photojournalistic, right? So I again asked, actually my wife was the one assisting me at this wedding. My wife was putting the flash behind her to illuminate her, and I had the bride count how many little whatever was on the wall, so her brain was occupied counting something, so she wasn't looking and posing for me. So that's why it looks kind of like she's counting something. What I'm saying is, get their brain away from the photo, away from the lens, and make them focus on something else, and you're gonna get a believable face expression, okay? Remember when the maintenance man was sitting on the side when he started getting comfortable? Remember that? Mm-hmm. Do you recognize that?
Yeah.
You see how that's starting to come? You can barely see my wife in the back too. You see a little bit of her dress right in the back. See that? That's her in the back there. So the mains man guy really helped me out, create all these photographs.
I love that.
Beautiful, right? Now when I saw this location looked like nothing but a big mesh of green and trees and nothing special. And when we were driving, I saw that little branch from far away, and I told the chauffeur guy, I was like, stop! And he was like, why? Because that stupid little trunk was creating a perfectly good frame. And that little trunk was allowing me to put some order in a chaotic, full of bush and tree situation. Does that make sense? So I had a wireless flash in this photo as well. That wireless flash was over here. It was like right there, and that's why I had her turn her face towards the left. So I said, grab your dress so your elbows are doing something, and then turn to the left. I had her walking, not posing, so there's that movement that creates that photojournalistic feel. Not to mention, this is framing her beautifully, and these trunks are pointing your eye right to it. It's like little leading lines into her, okay? Look at all these, this kind of believable expressions. Who wouldn't want this in your wedding, right? This comes from what I said on day 1. Be silly for 2 seconds for a picture that will last a lifetime. And then I was just like, ah! And I had to do more, and then they start laughing at me because I sound dumb, and then boom, I get the picture. But when you show them the photo, they shut up. You know, they're like, oh, smack, you know what I mean? Do you recognize the symmetrical posing on the groom here? Do you see the little pieces of light kind of lighting up on the top left corner of the photo? That came from a little lamp. What you don't see is that also comes from my video light, my assistant's video light pointing it at it. So you have a wall, but I transformed the wall into something of interest, okay? Oh, this is a good one.
Oh.
This came from, again, using my teddy bear. When I was sleeping at night, I saw that the blinds in my bedroom were in the higher floors, and the lights from the street were shining into my blinds and creating the same shape of the blinds into the ceiling. So then I thought, that's pretty cool. Now all I have to do is put the bride in the ceiling, and I can totally like make it work, right? So I went that night, I put my teddy bear on my light stand, and I put the flash in, like I put the flash, teddy bear was here, light stand, I put the flash there, and I photographed it from here, and I had a ceiling, and I wanted to create that silhouette of the teddy bear in the ceiling, and I did it for about 30 minutes until I got the settings right, made a mental note, and then when I went to this wedding, I said, hey guys, let me just take one quick picture. The groom is like, no, we want to keep dancing. I was like, it will take 2 minutes. They're like, I'll give you 1 minute. I was like, perfect. I only need 30 seconds because I already know what I'm doing. So then I went over there, I put the settings from the mental notes, I saw the ceiling, and I just flipped the image into the ceiling. So it creates this silhouette, okay? A big shout out real quick to you guys one more time. I want everyone in the audience to see this photograph again and remember the photos that we took from here after a bit of training with locations on how to break them down. Remember, David? Does this look familiar?
Yes, it does.
Would you say it's fair to say that you would look at a location like that totally different than 3 days ago?
I would, definitely.
Really? Do you think would you say that's fair? Would you, Nikki? What about you, Fran? Would you look at this location and be like, I can rock 50 photos right here?
Completely, yeah.
You can see how this is chaotic, but you can see how we can make sense out of it now, right? I mean, look at this. Who would have thought those two poles were a perfectly good frame?
Yeah.
Right? Who would have thought? Who would have thought that awful looking thing that looks like it's falling apart created that beautiful work of art, little window, like, remember that? All that stuff that we were doing? Compare that. Oh, I look good there. Just kidding. Compare that to that, and compare that other photo to that, and you start to transform yourself, okay? Anyway, in closing, it has been a wild ride for everybody. For me, really tiring. And for you, I have been so happy to see a transformation in your skill level, and most importantly, a transformation in your mentality about what it takes to get to a high level. I think that's probably the most important thing that we're gonna get out of this. No longer have to worry again about taking photos that look like this, which is what I did on my second wedding. I thought, this is so cool. Now I realize it looks like they all needed to go to the restroom. There was no restroom available. They found one in the middle of the road.
Bridesmaids.
Oh dear.
Look at the trash in the trash can, the cars. Somebody please help me, right? But now we went from this, which is something I did at the beginning of my career, and be able to put it all together, all the ingredients, and be able to transform the ingredients into something powerful. Okay, and it turns out to look something like this. Look at that awful light. I brought the car over to the left, and I had the car drive as fast as possible to pick up the dust, and that dust was going to get reflected by the sun hitting through the trees and create this drama in the entire location. So the guy didn't even know why I was asking him, but I just told him to do it. I walked back behind the trees because I was using the trees as a framing device, because two trees make a frame, right? So I had him go. I told the bride and groom to walk. I had my wife hold a wireless flash. I stood behind the trees. All this practice kind of comes together into a big, crazy finale, and you get a photo that looks like that, from a photo that just most people would have just said, I don't even know what to do here, or I would have put them in the middle and have them kiss. This is the power of a little bit of practice, a little bit of effort, and just putting the courage there, you know, just do it. You know, and I think this is a powerful, powerful lesson for everybody. So, there it is. I think I am officially finished with Creative Life, and I've had the best time. So thank you.